Good evening, Facebook family. How's everybody doing out there today? Welcome to another evening, wonderful evening, Sunday evening, bright, shiny, warm Sunday evening session with Brian and Janice. We are so fortunate to be here with you today, and we are fortunate to just be alive and to be grateful for today. We thank you all for joining us, and we're going to ask that you share this video with as many people as you can. We're just going to be casual today and share just some basic news information, things that are going on in our community and in the world today. We just want you to sit back, relax, be grateful for today, be grateful that you have a chance to enjoy another day. Mm-hmm. So, Brian, I'm going to let you get started.
Well, good evening, Facebook family. Good evening, YouTube family. There's a lot going on in our community as usual. We are never without, action in our community. Be it positive or negative, there's something always happening within this structure of the African American community and family. So, with having said that, we're going to be discussing just a few things as it relates to trying to put into, I guess you would say, put into words what's going on as it relates to some of the local issues that we're facing as a community. And not only that, some of the local news, like you talked about, that's really making the headlines. Yes. In Montgomery, Selma is always in the news. Yeah. So like you say, in surrounding areas, Prattville has been in the news lately. Millbrook is in the news now more than normal. So, there's always something happening. And unfortunately, our local governments and politicians are pretty much sitting there twiddling their thumbs, wondering what they need to do or what they can do or if anything can be done. And that is about the size of our local politicians. They're always twiddling their thumbs.
Well, Brian, they're trying to figure it out too.
Yeah, they're trying to figure it out, but not with much effort. So having said that, Facebook family, it's a joy to be with you. YouTube family, it's a joy to be with you. See you all again. All righty. So what do we want to start? There's so many things. Yes. Where do we want to start? Let's start off by, let me read this. And this is from a little book, excerpt from a little book that I wrote called Where Do Black People Go From Here? A Practical Guide to Survival in the 21st Century. But I just want to read this just for context purposes. The point of the matter is that after you accept who you are, then you can begin to change the parts that are not consistent with what you want to be. Once you recognize that who you are is not the best representative of your true self, love of self should prompt you to do something about it. Loving yourself enough to change yourself. If each individual in our community practiced this simple principle, it would create a positive way of being in a new culture for African Black people. In conclusion, there's much work for us to do as African Black people in this country and all over the world. We cannot avoid the despair of African Black people. Therefore, the decision not to get involved is not an option. We all have a part to play. Those who are educated, those that are business owners, those that are corporate executives, those that are military, those of us who are civil servants, and even those who are retired. As we go about living our daily lives, we must begin to get involved in the local politics in our towns, cities, and states. Gone are the days of not participating. We must become active in every aspect of local government, and we have to exercise our right to vote. African Black people cannot afford to get comfortable or think that we have somehow arrived because of a few victories. We should not approach the challenges that we face with the attitude that it's not my problem, because what affects one touches all. Okay, awesome. So that is just a prelude into us dealing with the many issues. But something that I point out in the book is we have an identity crisis within our community. And part of solving some of the problems in our community fringes upon us knowing who we are as a people and getting back to some basic pain points that we deal with and struggle with daily. Yes. You know, yes. And part of those pain points are not knowing who we are, not being able to concretely identify with our own culture. We are an assimilated people. We are an integrated people. We are a race of people that have been pulled into everyone else's culture, assimilated into everyone else's way of being and existing. And we have really have not had a free opportunity to really express ourselves. Even when you look at our entertainers, let's just take a look at the music industry. When you look at the music industry pretty much dictates what sells. And they feed that to our artists. And our artists makes music based on what sells. Yes, yes. Not based on, like they did at one time, on revealing issues in our community, talking about issues in our community, and a positive message that would uplift our community. Those days are really gone, yes, right? So now it's about what's selling, you know. What do black people, how do we continue to shape another generation and actually destroy literally their minds so they could not function in society, and so that they are not productive as individuals in society. And then we can discard them. We can lock them away. You know, we could push them to the insane in asylums and commit them to halfway houses and put them, you know, those, when we look at it, the industry is almost built that way, and we perpetuate that sickness, you know, within our community. Our artists perpetuate that amongst our young children. So we're dealing with a generation now that literally, like I said, has no identity, has no culture, that's being shaped negatively by athletes, entertainers, that particular industry that really do not push education. It doesn't push morality. It doesn't push spirituality. So all the things that were just essential and core to our communities, it doesn't focus on those things. You know, so we're dealing with different types of mechanism that's been set in place. Wow. To keep us stifled, to keep us, we claim that we're woke, but we're not really woke. Yes. Yeah. We have jumped on the woke bandwagon, so to speak. And it's a fad within the community now. Everybody woke because they watched a couple of YouTube clips. You understand what I'm saying? Now they look at that TikTok. They don't do any research themselves. They don't read themselves. But because I saw this on TikTok or YouTube, and I heard this brother say this or this sister say this, now I'm woke. Yeah. Or because I done jumped on the political bandwagon as it relates to, our history not being taught. I'm on that political bandwagon now. Or I'm on the political bandwagon that, we need the body autonomy. Bodily autonomy for women, we on that bandwagon. There's so many Brian, things we just, like I say, we get assimilated and drawn into no substance, no context to what we are buying into, and then we just kind of go along to get along.
But what we have to look at, this system was not created for us to survive. It was not created for us to get ahead. It was created for us to be subservient. So what we have to do, we have to create our own. And a lot of us have never been taught that. Even when we go reaching out, trying to get loans to start businesses and different organizations, we have such a hard time. Sometimes people get tired of fighting. And you get hit with enough no's, no, a door shut in your face, you tend to get shut down. You give up. And you know, we want those that, I have a friend, Viola Oliver, that's watching now. She has a daycare, and her daycare is doing, her daycare does very well in Selma.
Yeah.
So that is a business. That is her business.
Right.
So what you look at, if more people could find things or do things to help better our people, it will help us all.
I agree 100% with that. I think, where we get lost in the mix is that we have become so drawn into the whole concept of what it is like you said, by the system, what it is to be a successful person in this system. So we view materialism as a badge of success. So it is very unfortunate when you have as many black entertainer millionaires as you have that do not create any banks. They don't create any foundations that deal strictly with the poor, suffering blacks in their community. They don't establish any corporations where black businesses can come as a group and get resources, get information. We're not establishing any type of think tanks as it relates to what we need to do from a political agenda. We're just kind of happy to say that we have money.
Well, Brian,
we're not doing anything with the money.
But what we're looking at a different time now. There is so much information and so much garbage out there on social media that's pulling people away from actually learning.
But you're not looking at a different time. When you say we're looking at a different time, no, time hasn't changed as it relates to black people in the last 50 years. We have not progressed, we have regressed, contrary to popular belief. Okay, so a few do well, but for the majority is worse off now than they were 50 years ago, than the lower class black 50 years ago. Okay, or the black poor 50 years ago. One thing that the black poor had 50 years ago is they had teachers in their communities, they had doctors in their communities, they had people in their community that could make up for the lack and that didn't mind making up for the lack, and that reached out and the community worked together as one family. Unfortunately, that doesn't exist anymore.
So what do we do differently? What do we have to do now?
America. So what we have to do is we have to get back, like I said, to establishing some of those core principles that has been taken out of our community by way of entertainment, social media, whatever we want to call it. And like I said, one bad habit that black people have is we buy into and we assimilate into everything. We go along to get along with everything. But if we can get back to those core principles of each one teaching one, get back to the core principles of our morality when it comes to our men and our women. Now you have women that are worse than men when it comes to morality. If we can get back to the core principles of family, assisting when needed, not only just from a giving aspect, but from an informational aspect, being able to share what one has learned that have helped them to overcome. So you talked about the problem of, and let's just go back to this illustration of getting a loan. Okay. Most people can't get a loan because their credit's shot. So there's no need of them going to a bank asking for a loan when you have a 400 credit score. That's not reality. That's not the world we exist in. So what we should do is, okay, let's attack the cause.
The cause. Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
What is the cause? Maybe at some point you hit a financial bind and you wrote bad checks. Maybe at some point you couldn't pay your bills.
Right.
And they got behind, and maybe you had too many credit cards. Okay, so now we have established what the cause is for you having a 420 credit score. Now let's attack that. All right, what is the first thing we need to do? Let's get all the debtors that you owe. And I'm just giving an illustration here. Let's write them all down. If they are 7 years bills that are 7 years older, 7 years old or older, then let's write those debtors. And let's write them as it relates to statute of limitations and ask them to remove that.
Yes.
So we ask for some grace there. Yes. So little things like that, if they're less than 7 years, then let's ask them let's write a letter to see if they will waive the interest. And then you just pay the balance that was left.
Yes.
Okay. So there are many solutions, but Black people don't know how to approach those problems. Therefore, when they don't, they do nothing about it. So they just continue to allow their credit to be in bad shape. Okay? Getting a chime card does not establish your credit. You understand what I'm saying? If you have a student loan debt that you can't pay for, then okay, let's sit down. Let's look at the law. Let's write a letter. You can do this research yourself. You understand? And that's the type of information where we have to pass that on.
Yes.
You understand what I'm saying?
Yes.
When we do that, and once they achieve that, okay, something as little as that, once they achieve that, that builds their confidence. That shows them that you can do this as well. See, we all started pretty much from the same place, whether we want to admit it or not. You understand what I'm saying? If you are Black in this country. So how did some get to the place that they are? You understand? Mm-hmm. Yes, some may be more educated. Some may have a particular skill set. Some may have a trade, and they use that to their advantage, and that is good. But we should be teaching our brothers and sisters that's coming up the same thing. Teaching them how to get to that same place. Yes. You understand what I'm saying? College, and I said this on one show, college does not teach us how to start businesses. Okay? College teaches us how to manage businesses. Okay? And how to, depending on what level.
In that field.
If you're in that field, that's exactly right. But even if you aren't in that field, there's no college that has a course on establishing, running, and being a successful entrepreneur. You understand what I'm saying? So we have to, like your friend, you used the illustration that she has a successful daycare. She can duplicate that with somebody that may be interested, that may be good with children.
Yes. Tell
them how to get their certificates, train them, have classes for those that may want to go. That is how we rebuild our community.
It's called Reach One, Teach One.
Reaching one, teaching one. And then we have to close up churches. We need to close churches now. We don't need to open churches. We have to, and I said we got to get back to the core value. So part of that core value is spirituality within our community. At one time, we had a very high morality rate within our community. You understand what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. And if it wasn't high, you wouldn't know it because we know how to hold in secrets within the family
Yeah.
to where only the family knew about it. You understand what I'm saying? So there was a level of disclosure that was there that we practiced.
Yeah.
Okay, so even if we weren't spiritual, we looked spiritual. We played the part. But at some point, our pastors are not teaching, they're regurgitating the same old Bible stories and not teaching the scripture to where it will literally uplift us out of the state that we're in. At one time, what made the civil rights movement so successful was when they taught scripture, those pastors that were, black, what I call the black liberation pastors that taught the liberation theology. They tapped into a certain portion of scripture that helped our people to understand that God does not approve of any man being subjugated, being made less than anyone else, or God was not a racist. He was not a bigot, and he was not prejudiced. So they tapped into that to uplift the people and to literally affect a whole nation, whether they wanted to be affected or not, because the nation was calling itself Christian. Black pastors turned the spotlight on that and said, there's no way that you could be a Christian practicing what you're practicing by separation, subjugation, inferiority. There's no way. That's contradictory to what the scripture says. So they turned the spotlight on a Christian nation, so-called Christian nation, and said, okay, if you're a Christian nation, then this is the justice that you should be giving to all people. You understand? So we have to get back to, it's a sad day when we can't go to our spiritual institutions, and our spiritual institutions are not only there for us, but they're there to help teach, groom, uplift, and meet the needs of the community, apart from just having summer days. Even when it comes to our children in, Bible school summer camps, yes, we need to teach them, take the opportunity to teach them about who they are from an aspect of scripture. Help them to understand that they are in scripture. Help them to understand who their identity, what their identity is as it relates to scripture. So all of those things, and then going back to the family core value of building a family together. You understand? So whether it's a family that is a family that has been joined together through divorce, or a family that's been established just as that single unit, mother, father have children, and they're still together. We need to reestablish those principles of what it is to be good parents. You understand? And not allow children to parent parents, and not allow governments to parent the children.
Exactly. Yeah,
you understand?
I get it. Yeah.
So it's a sad day when the children are parenting the parent and the government is parenting the child. We have lost our minds. It's sad when you go in a grocery store and you see a child tell their mother or father, this is what you should do, because I'm not going to do this. Or you go into a grocery store and you see a child acting out
because he can't get a certain item in the store.
Right. And the parent has no idea on how to discipline that child within that setting. At one time, we understood how to do that.
Yes, we did.
Okay. So now we got a generation that we have created. So when you talk about the generation now between the ages of 25 to 45, that is a generation that literally, they're like monsters.
You got to take that back, Brian. 20.
Well, now I won't give it 20 because 20 is a different generation, 20 back. So I'm looking at the 25. But even some of the 20-year-olds, yes. But and whose fault is it? It's not all their fault that they are the way they are. A lot of it, you have to point back to the source, the resource that raised them. Now, children can do what they want to do after they become a certain age, and I realize that, and they have to take accountability and responsibility for their own actions, because you can raise a child in a healthy environment, you can teach them all the principles, and they can still go astray. So we're not ignorant of that. Right. You understand what I'm saying? But when we look at the overall
scheme of things,
masses of that age group, there's some things that they're doing that is just unheard of, that is not normal when it comes to their mentality. Right. So there's got to be something behind their actions that's propelling them to do some of the things they're doing, pushing them to do some of the things they're doing. And you brought it up earlier. You made a good point. One of the things when we look at the cause is, one of the things is social media.
Yes, it is. Mm-hmm.
Social media has been a detriment.
It has.
To our society, younger generation.
Yes, it has. And some older too.
Specifically black people.
Yes.
Okay, we don't know how to deal with certain things.
Yes, definitely.
And that is part of the emotional makeup of black people being stronger than other groups. So we tie everything into
emotions.
Yeah, and we tend to do it. We tend to go over the top with whatever we get involved in. So the sitting at home by our young men playing video games, smoking dope, not going to a job, staying up all night. You understand what I'm saying? Not reading. They feel like they've been pushed. Well, there's not a feeling. This is true. They've been pushed out of the school system. There's no one at home that will reinforce education and help them with some of those struggles that they may be having as it relates to educating themselves. So they feel like there's nothing else to do. So what do? They resort to gang membership to be accepted. They resort to the initiation process of the gang, whether that means shooting somebody or drive-by, robbing somebody, whatever the process includes, whatever they're told they need to do to represent their colors and to represent their gang, they do that. Okay, so they will look for other alternatives when they have nothing at home.
It's a means of acceptance
to validate.
That's their family.
Yeah, that is their family. That becomes their family, and so. Like I say, we have to start looking at the cause and dealing with the cause. We understand the prison to, the pipeline to the education pipeline, the prison school system. We understand that whole concept.
Yes.
We have to start looking at why our young men are dropping out. Now the law has passed where if the child cannot read on their grade level, starting in the third grade, that they will not be allowed to move forward to the next grade. Okay. Now, here again, black people, we have accepted that and said, okay, that's a good law. That's what most black people have said. On the other hand, I have chosen to take the opposite stand because I see that law as a law to further subjugate our young black boys. If you look at the statistics, when it comes to young African American boys that are in the third grade, their reading levels are lower than any other group in the third grade.
Yes,
is right. Young African American males.
Yes.
Okay. So now, what that law does it now establishes that you cannot learn like others. Forget the fact that most of the time, if you truly get into some of these classrooms, you'll find out that the teachers do not assist those young black boys that's got the kinky dreads in their hair or that's got the earrings in their ear. They do not give them the attention, unless they are an exception, that they give the other students. Well, I challenge parents to go and just spend a day in the classroom. You'll see some teacher behavior change, but for the most part, you're going to get a good picture of what is happening to our young men in the school system. So when they are not given the same attention, they don't have the same, skills being put in them that's being given to other children in the classroom, then they lag behind. Okay? So my whole thing is, now you got a young African-American black child that goes home and feels that I'm less than the other little children. We're talking about third grade here. And because I couldn't pass this reading,
the ACAP
test,
yes.
or whatever it may be, I'm, somehow disabled, or I'm slow, or I can't learn. This is all, black people, we have to see, this is nothing but another way to continue to belittle and to downgrade and to say we don't want to deal with young black children in the school system. So we take the exceptions. We take those that are just naturally brilliant. You understand what I'm saying? We'll deal with them. But the ones that we have to teach what we get paid to do, we don't want to deal with them. So we put laws in place that helps us escape and get around what we need to be doing and what we should be doing as it relates to educating those children. We accept those things. Black people, we readily accept those things. And we should be out protesting against that.
Exactly.
You understand what I'm saying? That it doesn't make any sense, because now you're late. It's the same concept of the bell curve. Now you're labeling a child.
Yes.
We don't know, that child could be the most gifted child in the classroom.
Yes, definitely.
Okay, we don't know the environment the child is in. We don't know, the situations that the home that they're dealing with. All of these things play a factor in them as far as their progression of learning, okay, and their progression of comprehension, and as they move through the education system.
Exactly.
And there again, we're talking about the system here. Okay. So we have to be, as blacks, start critically looking at and thinking about, is this a good law? Is this a good bill for our children? Yes. And is this going to does this really show we holding them back? Is that really going to make a difference if the teacher is not teaching them, regardless of how many times you hold them back? If you are not getting the production out of the teacher that should be given, then that child is going to suffer. Yes. That child is going to lack a skill set, especially, like I said, if they're not naturally gifted. That child is going to lack.
Or if they don't have the support at home to work with them outside of the school. Because a lot of things now, Brian, are dependent upon teachers giving the children assignments and projects and homework, and it all can't be just learned in the classroom in
I
55
agree.
minutes.
I agree.
They got to go because there are different
But
subjects
like we
that
were
have to be
saying,
taught.
that we don't know the home situation.
Environment, right.
You don't know. We don't know if that mother is working 2 or 3 jobs. We don't know if the grandmother is having to try to raise children
You're
again.
right. You're right.
So we have to account to everything. And like I said, we have to think about there are no courses as it relates to a child that's coming from a family where the mother's a drug addict and the father's in prison and grandma is doing the best she can.
Exactly. Yes.
Disabled.
Yes.
See, all of those things we have to start really
Homing
considering.
in on. Yes. Yes.
You know,
Definitely.
and we should not be so easily persuaded
Right.
that when laws are passed, that they are in our best interest and we have to go along with them. We do not. That's why I say our state representatives, when I look at the representatives in Montgomery, and when this I guess the governor signed this bill or whatever, I did not hear one black raise their voice or call a press conference to say this is an atrocity. This is not how we move our education system forward to where it works for every child. I did not hear one person come out. We've got the few black senators and representatives that we have got. Like I said, you've got some down there that really do fight. Mm-hmm. Okay. But then most of them are down there, they just down there to receive a paycheck and then they have a title. They twiddling their thumbs. Mm-hmm. When I look at Dallas County, the Black Belt, you look at schools that still don't have internet. You look at the crime rate in Selma.
Other areas too now, not just Selma.
Not just Selma, but I'm just saying Montgomery County. And when we look at, I'm talking about political representation that should be standing up and saying something is not right. The antennas should go up. And press conferences should be called. Well, and the governor should be criticized.
Well, Brian, now whose fault is it now? You have other nationalities that are here that just held a big press conference.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's our fault.
Montgomery.
It's our fault. It's black representation. They are hired. They are public servants. They are hired.
No, the people have to stand
well, I
up
understand that, but still, they are public servants. They should raise their voice too. Because when you look at every law, the first when Biden and Kamala Harris took office, the first thing they did was pass the bill for the Hispanic rights. Their representatives stood up and said, this is what you're going to do for us if you want our vote. Their representatives. That's why you have representatives. Okay, black people are at work. You've got a representative that you've chosen to be down there and to raise their voice. And we have representatives that are scared, that do not know what to say, don't know their history, can't put 2 sentences together that make sense to reach the people and to help the people to understand exactly what's going on. We still have to hold them accountable. Parents can get out there when they can and protest and do it on weekends, things of that nature. That's well and good. But you still need strong representation. Now, what I'm saying is...
It takes a community. You don't have to have anybody in legislation or in government.
Yes, you do to change laws.
I know people can make it happen. Yeah. We as a people can make it happen. We can come together.
I understand that, but we still have to have strong representation. See, if nothing else, I will say this. When you look at the Dr. Kings of the day, when you look at the A. Philip Randolphs of the day, okay, when you look at the Thurgood Marshalls of the day,
Marcus Garvey,
they made things happen politically, legislatively, You understand what I'm saying? They were representatives of the whole.
Well, it sounds like these we have now watered down.
They're
just
they
not
are.
stepping up
And like I say,
speaking on behalf of
have the people, and something you need to always remember. What causes a people movement is when leaders get out front and rally them.
But they don't have to be in the government. They do not have to be.
They don't have to be in the government. I never said they have to be in the government, but I'm telling you,
I'm not
if they
saying
are.
you. I'm saying it takes a people.
Yeah, but I'm still saying if you've got strong governmental representation, it helps to bring the awareness to the people.
Did those Hispanics that went downtown Friday in front of the Capitol, did they have...
That's a totally different situation.
But
They're establishing right now. They had a representative that came on WSFA and said that we feel like our community is being targeted. Just so happened he was a black that was representing them. Okay, representing the Mexican Hispanic community.
Okay.
So you still had a representative that rallies the people and says, I'm speaking for the community, our community. We feel like it's being targeted. Now the next step is we establish what we will do. We will protest. We will, if we have to go down to the Capitol, we're going to the Capitol.
But they did.
Okay, and they did. So, and that's fine. But strong representation, see, when you look at Malcolm, when you look at Martin, when we look at, like you said, Garvey, what made those men powerful was the fact that they could rally their people. They were truth tellers, okay, for their day and time. So all I'm saying is if you've got somebody in government that's supposed to represent you, that you done voted for, you done put there, that's what they should do. We have to hold them accountable, okay? That we black people get too lackadaisical after we put somebody in office and they do nothing. Then we have to go out and do the work ourselves. We have to go out and now have to fight and have to, come together, try to rally the community to do what needs to be done. That's just part of it. But if you got strong representation, if they can't do anything else, they can rally the people. They can get enough people with them to where they can make some noise. That's what look at one of the most recent movements was Black Lives Matter movement. When you look at the two young ladies that started that movement, they went to every city where there was a tragedy that happened with a black person, be it male or female. They started showing up and they started with simple marketing scheme, wearing shirt that said Black Lives Matter and holding up a poster. Okay. Even though Black Lives Matter is insignificant now and really didn't do anything of major significance as it relates to changing the black condition. Okay. But it started off as a movement that people got behind. Why? Because those young ladies made a point to say, our men and women are just as important as any other man or woman in the United States. And we are tired.
That would be easy for Montgomery to do, and it doesn't have to come from inside.
Well, I don't want to focus on Montgomery.
Well, any city, Brian.
Yeah, but
Birmingham.
It's not as easy as you think unless you've been out there and you've done it. So it takes a lot of strategy. It takes a lot of planning, and it takes a boldness from a leader that is not afraid to deal with issues. So that's just one component, but I don't want to spend a whole lot of time on that. Like I said, I just think it's we put weak people in leadership now. Black people, at one time, we put our best leaders.
But we got a lot of people that are sitting behind talking a good game, but they're not stepping up doing anything. That is one thing that hurts us as well. We have people that sit back in the comforts of their home and they talk about the problems, but they don't bring solutions. They don't bring any solutions. That is no good. That is worse than somebody not doing anything at all.
Well, that's the majority of people. So the majority of people are doing what you just explained because they don't have any direction on what to do. Okay? So still, if you have a people that don't have any direction on what needs to be done or how to do it, then what they're going to do is reside to sitting in their homes and talking about the issues. Okay, they're not going to be actively engaged.
They may know what to do and not do anything. A lot of them are talking about it
what to do
and not doing anything about it.
But people don't know what to do. No, you cannot say that.
A lot of them do, Ron.
A lot of them don't know what to do. You have to look at the majority. A lot of them do not know what to do. And the few that do know what to do, their brains are fried. Literally, because they bought into the concept of the system and that this democracy works for us, a lot of them, and they get actively engaged in the democracy and they're not really engaged in helping black people. Okay, so that's what you have in government. You have in government black bourgeois boule people that are engaged in being a Democrat and being a good Democrat, and they're not engaged in helping black people. Okay, so now the chips have to fall where they may when it comes to black. We're still the ones that get the breadcrumbs from the master's table. And our black politicians perpetuate that. They are part of the problem. When they think that Democrats and what the difference between a Democrat, and I've said this many, many, many times, okay? One focus on bottom up, the other one focus on top down, but the money still meets in the middle. There's no difference when you look at the money. When you look at the money, we have not gotten reparations under a Democratic rule. Only thing, and even Biden won't even study it. He won't even put something in place. Sheila Jackson Lee had to fight as that torch was passed on just to get somebody to take another look at it. And then Cory Bush, he takes up the mantle. Cory Booker, takes up the mantle. So what am I saying? I call them the black Caucasians in Washington. But locally, we have the same thing. They duplicate the blacks in local politics, duplicates what they see on a federal level. And it is unfortunate. It is unfortunate that we have literally men that have yellow streaks running up their back as local representation. And that's on a city, that's on a county and state level. And the only reason they're there is to get a paycheck and to say I'm a senator and to have a title. They're not there to really help black people. They propagate the lie that they love black people because they may have grown up in a black community, but they don't love black people. You understand? There's no way that you could sit back like what we just talked about with this, the education, and then not raise issues, not call press conferences, not talk to your people, not get out front of this even before, because they know beforehand. And let's deal with the real issue as far as educating our young black children. So we have to take a step back, Janice, and really look at, like I said, and like I read in our prelude, we've got to get involved. Those that are conscious, truly conscious, and not on the woke fad. Okay? I don't have any time to deal with folk that are woke. Like I say, they're TikTok watchers. They're not readers. They don't research. They don't really critically analyze the situation. Folk that are woke, you're just woke. Okay? But you could be woke and still sleep.
Yeah.
Now I'll talk about that in another show.
Yeah.
Okay? So we've got to do something more than just get on a bandwagon, jump on a bandwagon.
Definitely.
Okay, so
I get it.
all right, what's next?
We got an election, a major election coming up in November. Oh God.
Here we go.
Oh, I don't know where to begin with this one. You know, I feel like we need another party. Really.
I agree.
We need another party. Right now, 6 in one hand, half a dozen in the other. Same thing.
Mm-hmm. I 100% agree. Well said. Next issue.
Okay.
Not gonna play into that much at all. I mean, you know, what's the old saying? It's the lesser of two evils, but when both are about equal in their evil, you're left with no pick at all.
No pick at all.
It's a tough situation. This country is in a tough situation. You know, we're on a downward trend when you look at some of the things that are going on as it relates to the warmongering precedent that has been set when it comes to the Ukraine war, the war in Israel right now. When you look at the United States involvement, how it has affected everyone in this country. Look at inflation.
Yes.
You look at the interest rates.
Yes.
You look at all of those things that, you know, who was it? Theodore Roosevelt and Dr. King also said that war is the enemy of the poor. Okay, because it takes more money out of your pocket. So interest rates, inflation, all of those things goes up
to offset the cost of the war.
to fund the war.
Right.
So the making of weapons. Now you've got you know, the whole Biden authorizing military weapons to be used inside of some parts of Russia. So, you know, there appears to be no end in sight when it comes to some of the political drama that we are facing right now. You know, not counting also, there's still you know, no real legislation in place as it relates to voting rights and the solidification of voting rights for all Americans. There's, you know, we're still dealing with the George Floyd situation as far as the legislation piece. There's nothing concrete in place with that. So it's a lot, you know, that's going on that we have to step back and kind of take a look at and really start devising a plan, I think, as an African-American community to establish a party that would represent who we are. You know, now there are independent parties like the Green Party, okay? You know, then you will have.
Cornel West Party? What's his?
Cornel West Party's Justice for Peace Party.
Okay.
So, you know, there are some parties, and you know, Dr. West is, I think, a great representative when it comes to humanity, and he deals with poor people. You know, his book Race Matters. You know, he gives a great critique on what needs to happen as it relates to poor people and, you know, race in general as it relates to this country, taking another look at race and then putting laws in place and establishing laws that work for everybody, regardless of what race you are. You know, W.E.B. Du Bois said that the problem of the 20th century would be race. So we are not, this is something that's not new in this country. You know, how we deal with it is what we're still trying to figure out as leaders. And one way you deal with it is you just have to be honest And first, you have to say that, yes, there is a race problem, and let's approach it from that angle, from the angle that there is a race problem. Let's stop saying there's not a race problem.
Right, because there is.
But there's definitely a race problem.
Yes.
Okay? And if we approach it from that angle and be truthful about it, then we can put some legislation in place to deal with all of the barriers that exist and the boundaries that were set up in order for black people not to have the same opportunities to advance as every other race that's coming into this country.
Exactly.
You understand what I'm saying? So, I think we have to deal with that. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, so what's next?
Okay, just give us conclusion.
Okay, it is 8:04. All right, we've been on an hour. That time flies when you are
having fun.
Yes, it does. So I want to just kind of recommend a book. I showed you my book earlier, but I also wanted to just show you this book as well. Black Men Obsolete. I think I may have showed this earlier. Single, Dangerous. The African American Family in Transition. That's by Brother Haki Madhubuti. So if everybody can see that, it's a great book. Brother Haki gives us some information that we went over today as it relates to just restoring the black family, but looking at some of the issues, even like I said, 20, 30, 40 years ago, that were really seeping into our communities and beginning to take root and causing major problems. So the drug dynamic that exists today that we see within our communities started 40 years ago. We have to really take a deeper look at that. And then the black family has always been under attack. Ever since we were brought over to this country, the separation of black women, black men, and children and their children, that has always been we have always been under attack. That has always been a part of the slave structure that existed and the slave foundation that existed within this country. And so when you look at some of the rudiments of that, we still deal with that on a governmental level. Okay? So we have to, like I said, we have to go back and look at those things. And then we have to, as black people, we have to oppose those things that are not good for us. We cannot continue to go along with those things, and to just accept handouts, and then something that I'm always going to do, I'm going to call out the leaders. I'm going to call out bad leadership. And there's no excuse for it when it comes to that's just me personally, and I don't mind calling names. Dr. King had to call out some bad leaders. Malcolm called out bad leaders. It's part of it. If you say that you truly want to represent black people, then be true to who you are and be true to your people. I agree. And it should not be a popularity contest. And that the reason that I'm going into politics is because my brother or my sister or my frat. No, nobody gives a crap about that. You understand what I'm saying? We want somebody in there that represent black people and that will call out those issues and that don't mind putting it on the line. You understand what I'm saying? So, we have to do some things differently if we're going to advance ourselves. But we'll leave it at that, and we'll be back with you all on next week, so you can take us out of here.
All right, thank you everybody for watching us today. I hope you got an earful and take a lot of this stuff into heart. Share this video with as many people as you can, and we appreciate so much for you all tuning in to us today. And if you didn't get a chance to watch it, the full entirety of this video, please go back and hit replay and watch it later. Also, again, we love you.
All right.
And we
Thank you, everybody.